So in the next one, this is the big one. This is the biggest one, definitely the biggest one of sprint 1. It's a big exercise, so it's an exercise that you'll spend some time on. What we are going to do right here is we are going to add some new tables from the ODX server, ODX layer, operational data exchange layer, to our modern data warehouse. We are going to add 2 new tables that we need in order to create the salesperson dimension. And we are going to rename a table. We are going to create a new field to concatenate. We're going to rename this table right here. We're going to rename it. The one called persons table. We're going to put in the person table and the salesperson. And the person table we're going to rename to salesperson name, as we are only using that to get the salesperson name. Then we are going to add a new form, another form of case of select when. We're going to apply a data selection rule telling TimeXtender that we only want rows with person type is equal to SP, and that stands for salesperson. And then we're going to relate our person table, now renamed to salesperson name. We're going to relate that to salesperson using the salesperson ID to business entity ID. And then we are going to create a lookup from this field, concatenating the first name and last name, so we get the full salesperson name. We're going to look that up into our salesperson table. And finally, we are going to rename the field called business entity ID in the salesperson table, and we are going to name it salesperson ID. It doesn't really matter, it's just for cosmetics with these renaming. As you probably already guessed, since we can relate business entity ID to salesperson ID, but it just makes it clearer for any users who want to connect to this table. So without any further ado, let's see if we can pull up my workshop machine right here. And we're not using our sales model right now, so I'll close this, giving me some more space to work on. And actually I'm going to drag this tab right here, and then we are going to find our person table, and we're going to find our salesperson table, that is. And TimeXtender doesn't care at all about the order of the tables, but we consider it best practice to have dimensions over fact tables and parents before children, and headers above details. So since this will be a dimension and we are going to look up something from the person table salesperson, I'm going to drag this up right here just above my sales order header and sales order detail, placing person above salesperson. And let me just drag this again like this, since we're done with the ODX, and expand the person table. In here we wanted to create a data selection rule. So well, first let's rename this one. You can highlight the table and push the F2 button, otherwise you can right click and click on edit table, and then we can call this one salesperson name. Great. And the next step is that we want to add a data selection rule. We only want the fields where person type, the rows where person type is equal to SP. So we're going to right click this, and we're going to go to add data selection rule, and we're going to highlight the person type field. As an operator, we want this to be equal to SP, and then click on add, and you will see you'll get this funnel at the top right here telling you that we are filtering away some of the data. That's the first thing we want to do to our salesperson name table. a second thing after we renamed it, sorry. The third thing we want to do right now is that we want to add this new field because we want to concatenate the first name and the last name. So we're going to add a field, and this will be a text field. We're going to name this field salesperson name, and we set the characters to 150 to take into account any real big names, and we'll click on OK. Now we have this field right here that we want to apply a transformation to. So we'll right click, we'll click on field transformation. Well, actually, instead of field transformation, what we're going to do is we're going to apply this snippet right here. And you only have one snippet on your machine, but you can download a whole package of snippets, and these are calculations that you can use for your cubes and ways of calculating message. So you can handle these snippets centrally across all of your projects, across all of your transformations. It's one way of ensuring that everything has been standardized and ensuring data quality as well. So what I did is I right-clicked the salesperson name, and then I went to add Sql Snippet Transformation and selected the concatenate to fields, and then I'll drag the first name onto field 1 and the last name to field 2. Click OK, and now we're ready to go to the next step. I will open this table in a new window since we'll create a lookup in a minute. You can either right-click and go to open window, or you can use the shortcut stated below, Control W. And here we wanted to do two things. We wanted to change the name of business entity ID, F2 to rename it. Otherwise, you can right click and go to edit. We want to name this one salesperson ID, and then we can relate the two tables, allowing us to create a lookup salesperson name, and we want to use the default relations instead of the joins. And this right here is an expression of how you can have multiple joins. And of course, now we only have one field going into defining the relation, but you can have multiple fields defining a relation, ensuring that you get the unique record that you're looking for. But you can also have multiple joins, multiple relations, and you can have these relations being dynamic, as the default relation is, or you can have them being static, which would be the case if you selected copy join from. You can also add a new join if you want to, but we're going to go with this dynamic one right here. When we create new relations, we can always choose which one should be the default, and if we change the default, this lookup will change accordingly. And now, let me close this one. We can see that we have salesperson name where business entity ID is equal to salesperson. Well, business entity ID, actually, salesperson ID, which it has been renamed to. So what we've done previously, and I really hope you don't get any errors out there, what we've done previously is as soon as we're done with a table, we'll right-click it and go to deploy and execute. That won't work right here because we have dependencies. This table depends on this table, and these tables have are pulling from the ODX as well. So what you will do instead is we'll right-click up here. I can't remember what I did in the handouts, but all roads will lead to Rome, right? So if you right-click the database level up here and go to deploy and execute, and before clicking start, just click only modified tables and views, and then you can click on start. You have the option right here to deploy the entire thing, but there's no need for that. At the bottom you have the work items. We do allow for multiple developers, and you can check in and check out. Well, you can mark tasks that you're working on and mark them as deleted by checking them out right here. So we'll click on start. We'll put in a note, add salesperson dimension, and click on save. Actually, what I forgot to do, I can't recall if you have it in your semantic layer. I'll advise you to if you're following along and all is good, then keep following along. If not, then I'll advise you to refer to your sprints folder, because what I forgot to do right now is I also wanted to add the salesperson table to my sales model. We also forgot to change the schema, so we'll do that real quick. Table settings, we will hide this one right here, set it to an ETL, and then we will relate our salesperson table to our sales order detail, dragging salesperson ID to salesperson ID. And finally, we will add the salesperson dimension onto our sales model right here, and we will add the salesperson name, and we'll click on OK. And we will inherit the relationship on the orders. Please select the salesperson to salesperson ID and click on OK. And now it won't be enough. If you want to push this into your semantic model, it won't be enough to right-click the modern data warehouse and deploy and execute. You'll actually need to go to your project level or go to this deploy and execute button and then click on only modified tables and views. So let's do that and added sales. And click on save.